Happy Good Monday, Bill.
How did I know you were going to start this off that way?
Lucky guess.
So how's your Monday going so far?
Busy. It's a Monday.
I know it's always the busy day. Eve, so listen, there's some stuff going on, and I want your take on this. I don't know if you've heard about this. Ross Coulthart talked about it on a tweet on X, and so I did some more digging. Are you familiar with the journalist, investigative journalist Michael Schellenberger, I believe his name is? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he does all kinds of independent investigative work. It's not just the UAP topic. He does a broad range of different investigations that he does. But he claims that he had an interview with a new whistleblower. That this new whistleblower is talking about some secret program, Immaculate Constellation. Now, I'm like, this is the first I've heard of this. And I'm just going to read a little bit from an article just to give you a little background. So it says here, what is this Immaculate Constellation? According to the whistleblower, the Pentagon program collects and quarantines information on UAPs, sightings and encounters. The program allegedly includes information from different types of intelligence, including high-quality image intelligence and measure and signature intelligence. The whistleblower, he did not reveal, and he did not go into the background, but he did say that he confirmed the existence of the program and verified their credentials. Okay. So according to Schellenberger, the whistleblower discovered the program by accident after stumbling upon a database containing UFO information. Some of the incidents described in here was that an orb surrounded an F-22 and forced it out of its designated patrol area. Remember, I'm reading directly from the article. In another incident, the crew on an aircraft carrier reported seeing an orange-red sphere descend from a high altitude and described feeling uneasy as if they had snapped out of a trance following the encounter. Now, remember, this is all alleged claims. How did the Pentagon respond? Of course, denial. We've never heard of it. And this is a quote from Susan Go, who is the spokesman for the DOD. The Department of Defense has no record, present or historical, of any type of SAP called Immaculate Constellation. And we know SAP, Special Access Programs, that's kept undercover from the public, from even people within the government, because if they don't have the clearance, Toby, they're not seeing it, because that's the big problem. Only the high echelon individuals that have that clearance can even get access. Even if this program existed, which they are denying, you need that clearance. So this is what's going on. And then this supposedly, I don't know, Toby, you got to might clarify this for me. It says here, there's 2 hearings going on. Kristen Gillibrand has announced plans for a UAP hearing held by the Senate Arms Services Committee following the elections, and Representative Nancy Mace announced plans for a UAP hearing in the House set for November 13th. So is this, because she's a senator, is there a Senate hearing going on with the Armed Services Committee? And then there's another hearing going on the House? That would be different, because the Senate hasn't done one yet, I don't believe. It's just been in the House. So what's your take on everything I just discussed?
Actually, the Senate has had one before. I remember, because I broke the news on that one, but it was very uninformative. My understanding at this point is the new Senate hearing is going to bring forward the new director of Aero. So I don't know that a whole lot's going to come out of that one, but I haven't really looked into it much. The other hearing that Mace is having is the one that Gallaudet's going to be part of. And apparently they have other possible firsthand witnesses to these things that they're keeping under wraps. I think it was Tim Burchett that came out and said, we're not going to release the names of these witnesses too far ahead like we did last time. We're going to keep it under wraps, and we're going to try and just blow the lid off this thing, once we have it. And I believe that's the one that's set for November 13th, but I could be wrong. The Schellenberger article, very, very interesting. I know people were looking into when David Grush first came out. A bunch of searches on Google apparently were done for the term Immaculate Constellation, and then supposedly Google scrubbed all that. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, it's interesting. If it's a USAP, then of course they're going to deny the existence of it.
Oh,
I mean, maybe if you called them, they'd probably tell you just because you're Bill.
I don't think so. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, I'm curious, Toby, how many people are they lining up? Because it's an undisclosed number. I don't even know how many they're going to have during these hearings, but it sounds like there's going to be a few whistleblowers appearing. Have you heard anything concerning that?
I've heard the number of 2 to 3, but names I haven't heard. And like I said, I haven't really been that dialed in on that side of things, the government side of things lately. So it's probably something I should get back on.
Well, speaking of witnesses and coming from a law enforcement background, Stanley Milford Jr. will be joining us today on the show. And his book just came out, The Paranormal Ranger, which already, I believe on the New York Times site, it says it is recommended top 22 nonfiction book for this fall. It's like a must read and critically acclaimed across the board. I'm seeing a lot of reviews. People are really enjoying his book. And yes, non-fiction based on his background on the Navajo reservation doing what he was doing along. And also we can't discount what John Dover was doing as well, another paranormal ranger. But he's got a great book out, folks. Make sure to check it out. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any distribution book publishing company. But also, if you go to HarperCollins.com, I believe, you can just search The Paranormal Ranger. You'll see his book, and you can purchase it there as well. So what do you got background on Stanley? Because you know Stanley personally as well.
Hands down, one of the absolute nicest, coolest people I've ever met. I mean, it to me, it's an honor that I can actually call this guy and he answers the phone. I don't think you can meet a better person. Him and John both. I had the honor of having dinner with the two of them and Eduardo Sanchez, the director of the Blair Witch Project. You want to talk about like a horror spooky thing fans top dream scenario of a dinner? That's it right there. You have a guy that makes some of the best scary movies. Then you have two guys that actually investigated this thing for real, this phenomenon.
A lot. Skinwalkers, cryptids, UFOs. I mean, a lot they investigated.
I'll never forget, my wife watched their episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and she's like, I couldn't finish it. It was too scary.
I think it too. That was excellent, by the way.
So she was just blown away to get to meet both of them. But Stan is hands down one of the nicest, most genuine people I think you'll ever meet. And the book is a must buy, everybody.
Yes. Christmas is coming. It's a great stocking stuffer.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get the man up here with us.
And there he is.
How you doing, Stan?
Hello, everybody.
How's everything?
Glad to be here. Everything's good. Everything's good. Very busy.
Oh, I know. In the previous conversation before we had you on, you've been touring around and going on this book tour. And how's that going off, with everybody that you're engaging with?
I just got home from Denver and Durango, Colorado. Did a book signing at a bookstore, did a presentation. And yeah, I mean, it's been beyond what I could have expected, with this thing, how it's being received and but yeah, it's great. I mean, almost every day there's podcast or radio interview or something that's going on. People are really interested. We're here going to be talking about congressional hearings and things like that, and disclosure, and I think we're at a point in time where people really want to know more information regarding all of this that falls under the paranormal umbrella. So, and rightly so.
Yeah, I mean, author, that's definitely a cool thing to add to all the titles you've had throughout your life.
Yeah.
Remember some of the stories you've told us about the things you've investigated and experienced, and then I just remember how excited you were when you texted me, I'm a published author now, and I was like, man,
Oh yeah.
couldn't have happened to a better person with a better story. I keep telling you, I said one of these days I'm going to call and he's going to be too Hollywood to answer because they're going to be putting out a movie and a TV series based on his book.
No, I don't think that'll ever happen, but it is exciting. Yeah, there is interest in regards to one of the top production companies optioning the book, possibly, and for
Wow.
television series.
That would be cool. But speaking about the book, Stan, how long did it take you to go over your past cases that you were involved with? And what was some of the specifics? Did you have this stuff personally documented? Was this based on recall, going back and remembering all the different cases that you put in this book? And I'm sure you've got a ton that was excluded from this book.
Right. Well, that's the thing. When I was working as a ranger, after John and I were assigned doing these kind of investigations, I was already making my own personal notes on a lot of this stuff. Maybe with the hopes that someday I could put together something, in writing. And so a lot of the material, or at least the foundation of the material, was already written in a lot of it. But when I retired on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th of 2023. And within 2 months of that, I had the contract with the publisher to begin writing. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to be retired. The book thing really is a full-time effort, as busy as a full-time job. And so once I got the contract, it was just focusing on really fast-tracking writing all of this book, because I think it took me about 8 months just working nonstop and focusing solely on the book. And, there was some 32-hour days spent just writing. And so really concentrated effort in writing the book and getting everything, all the elements that would go into the book and the design and everything. And but a lot of it, there's always been a element of serendipity with the whole everything since John and I began doing these investigations. It's almost as if all of this stuff was meant to happen. I guess I look at it as a higher power wanting that word about the paranormal, supernatural, and that this stuff, for the most part, really exists. Yes, there have been those cases that have John and I investigated that were hoaxed and faked and that kind of thing, but you're always going to have that. I mean, especially in this day and time of internet and social media and that kind of thing. John and I called out, several individuals that were hoaxing things over the years and confronted them about it. But the majority of the cases that we did investigate, there was an element of paranormal, supernatural to it, that unexplained. And so a lot of the people that were involved in these were traumatized or victimized, in some way. And a wide range, like you said, a wide range of various types of paranormal phenomena, whether it's UFOs or extraterrestrial contact or haunting cases, Bigfoot cases, cases involving witchcraft and the notorious Navajo shapeshifter skinwalker cases. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it in firsthand experiences was life-changing. I mean, it changed how you view the world and the universe, and so very interesting. But it does happen on
2-month retirement.
2 months. Yeah.
2 months. That's not a retirement, Stan.
Yeah. No, they didn't want me to rest for very long. So. Yeah, but I was very blessed, and one of the executives of HarperCollins watched the Unsolved Mysteries episode on Netflix, and I think it's season 3, episode 5 on Unsolved Mysteries, and he seen that and contacted John and said, "I'd really like to work with you guys to publish books if you're interested." And I come from 2 families that are, both sides of those families are readers. My mother could sit down with a book like Gone with the Wind and sit there in the evening and start reading it and be done with it by the time the sun rose in the morning, and she'd be able to recite to you all the details about it. And same with my father. Father had a collection of books on a wide range of subject matters, and all my aunts, uncles, and cousins are readers. And so when I got the opportunity to write, to put together a book and write, I jumped on it immediately, like same day, and everything worked out.
So you must
I
have
walked
people.
into Barnes and Noble the other day, and my book is on the shelf there, and it's kind of surreal. You have to.
That's cool.
Pinch yourself. Yeah.
You must be fielding calls left and right for copies of your book then.
Yeah. There's a big demand in it. Went to a booksellers trade show the other day, and I don't know how many copies. I know there's between well over 100 copies I signed, and then probably another 50 at a bookstore in Durango that I signed. A huge turnout for those events. People are really excited about it. So. And we're looking at, there's a number of them scheduled immediately. Like next week, I'm in Farmington, New Mexico at the public library doing a book signing and presentation. And that's on Wednesday of next week at 6 p.m. They're planning on a similar thing at the University of New Mexico branch in Gallup, New Mexico, coming up in November, I think November 11th. And in between there's shows like yours and Coast to Coast and some others that they've got lined up. So, yeah.
Very cool. So we were talking earlier about these hearings they're having with former military personnel. If you were approached by, say, Congress or Senate to come and testify to what you investigated and saw while you were still active duty? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was things that I did during the course of my career and in investigations that was unexplainable. What we witnessed. And John Dover would be a good person to be able to testify in something like that. John has much more UFO sighting experience than I have, more firsthand, up close experiences. But yeah, I can testify to what I experienced and what I've seen. But I think you're getting a wide range of people that on different levels that were involved in things that involved UFOs and UAPs. And I think you're starting to see that now, Lou Elizondo, people like him, Lou just had his book come out not too long ago. So there is a big interest. Him and I are on the same publisher. He reached out to me the other day to talk to me a little bit.
You just opened up something that's really, I think, critical here. First of all, you spent many years as a Navajo Ranger on the reservations, and John as well. And I'm sure that there was now a trust factor, even though you're retired, that you still had that connection to many people on the reservation. Now, I don't know how many actual indigenous law enforcement officials there are currently. I believe we had a conversation, it was in the 40s, and it's diminished to much lower than that. And I think another thing that's important, like what Toby was just saying, where if you were to go to in a congressional hearing setting, it would be great if there was some type of physical evidence or witness testimony coming from the people of the res, because they don't hear much from that part of the country as far as a source of information. I think that's so important for that to be presented and not ignored. Bring it to the table. And you know what? It ain't going to be deemed like they always do with everything. It's classified. At least you can bring that to the table and show people, well, look, this is what's going on. It's happening on the reservations.
Yeah. Well, I agree that the Navajo Reservation is 27,000 square miles in the size of the state of West Virginia, right in the heart of the United States. And it tends to be a void there of information that, let's say, within one of the other states of the Four Corners region, information is being submitted and analyzed and all of that. But the reservation areas tend to be a black hole of void of information and stuff. So yeah, I agree with that assessment. So,
but again, there's nothing. I mean, are there currently any other indigenous Native American Navajo Rangers that are doing this investigative work, or is it now like both of you retired but still have that connection with those on the reservation that they call you on the phone and say, listen, guys, we need your help. Something's going on here. We have no one else to turn to. Is it possible that you can come and assist us?
So the unique thing that led to the investigations that John and I done was the motivation by the chief ranger and his support of those investigations. After he left and I worked as the chief ranger for 2 years, little over 2 years, and continue to investigate these cases. But today, I'm not too sure. I doubt that these cases are getting a whole lot of focus. Simply that by the time I left, there was only 8 rangers remaining with the department.
Wow.
So you have 8 rangers providing enforcement protections over 27,000 square miles and all of the various natural resources, be it livestock, timber, fish and game, all of that, all of the antiquities, archaeology stuff. It's just not enough officers to do that. And even when back in the day when I came on and you had over 50 or 40 rangers, between 40 and 50, even with that number, there's not enough to do everything that needs to be done as far as enforcement protections. So I would dare say that they have their hands full in other things today, and same with the Naval Police. I've been recently informed the number of police officers that they currently have for the entire naval nation, and it is not enough. It is not enough. Not even maybe 1/5 or 1/4 of what they really need to patrol the communities spread throughout the naval nation. So, given that, there's unfortunately the cases involving paranormal are going to get pushed to the back burner because your domestic violence and DUI cases and things of that now, and even the homicides, they're going to take precedence over these paranormal cases. That it's just the way it is, and so yeah, it's a great challenge.
That's crazy. 8 officers for 27,000 miles.
Right. Yeah. For the size of West Virginia.
Yeah.
Hello. That don't make any sense. But unfortunately, in a lot of these programs, they're suffering because financially, there's just no money's invested in these law enforcement programs. I mean, at least during the time that I worked, there were programs like after 9/11, there was what was called community-oriented policing support. These federal grants from the federal government that law enforcement agencies could apply for additional funding. And so at least during that time, you were able to supplement the number of officers that you had that were funded under the general funds of the Navajo Nation or the tribes funds. And so, but yeah, it's a challenge today, and especially when you have situations like these 2 hurricanes that this country's experienced recently, and that takes up a huge amount of money, federal funds, to try to get a response off the ground for those, to save people's lives. And so, yeah, it's a challenge today.
So, out of all the places you've done investigations at for, paranormal, whether it be UFOs, Bigfoot, or anything, what would you say is the place that you felt was the eeriest? Had like the creepiest vibes, I guess.
Well, we did investigations in an area called Satan Butte. I got to noticing that that particular location was on the same longitude as the Sherman Ranch case or the Skinwalker Ranch case up in Utah had a lot of similar phenomenon occurring. And so I think there are some areas where if you have this empath or overly developed sixth sense with these things, you go into those areas and, red flags start going up and alarms start going off, and it's just the way some of these locations are. But then again, even a person with an Ouija board from a local toy store can manipulate that connection with other dimensions. I mean, the talking board goes back to, or a Ouija board goes back to the time of the spiritualist movement in this country and other countries in the late 1800s and early 1900s. It's nothing new, but each one of those boards can actually act as a portal crossing barriers. You don't always know what you're going to get once you open up that gateway and that doorway with these things. And I don't recommend people experimenting with them and playing with them. I think it's a tool for highly trained, experienced people that have used these talking boards or a Ouija board, knows how to use them correctly, and it's not something for the novice, and certainly not something for children to be messing around with. It can be very dangerous. I mean, your movie, The Exorcist, was actually based in truth on a case that involved this type of phenomenon and tools, and it went south. The movie is actually based on a Catholic priest's accounting of that particular event. So, or several priests actually that were involved. So
crazy enough, I just saw they're releasing a Exorcist branded Ouija board.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I seen that too. Yeah, I seen that too, and I've seen the ones that have been in Toys R Us back in the day that were in a little pink box. I actually seen those on the shelf, and yeah, they can be dangerous and very. I don't agree with the marketing there of those things, but that's not for me to control or whatever. And I would just caution people and to not be buying it for your little kids.
Stan, you brought something up earlier. Actually, a couple of points. When you go to these locations, do you need, even yourself, like a person that has similar characteristics to a shaman? That, because I'm sure there's a lot of sites there that are restricted. I mean, if they don't allow you to go to that site, they're not going to let you go to that. That's one. Then, secondly, you mentioned doorway or doorways. Do you think that all of this is interconnected, whether it's UFO related, cryptid, skinwalker, whatever it may be, that there's something that connects all these three things or more to one thing?
Well, John and I, over the years, have come to rely upon Navajo medicine men and shaman of other tribes, and some that are non-native shaman, but we've come to depend on them and what they're capable of in the way of protections and teaching us what we can do to protect ourselves from spiritual attack and stuff. And John likes to, when people ask about that subject matter, he basically tells them,
I don't know, Stan, but something just happened and we lost you for momentarily. I don't know, but the topic has got anything to do with it, but you were talking about the shamans and everything just went crazy. I don't know. That was just weird.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
That's very common when you're dealing with this subject matter. There are certain keywords that that have to do with like shape shifting and things like that, and when you say those words, they reverberate out there in the universe, and there are energies out there that pick up on those words and can respond. They can, especially electronic stuff like what we're using here, it can manipulate this stuff like nobody's business. And so you were talking about
The
Ouija board. Yeah.
The interconnection possibility that all these things are tied together. And maybe it's a dimensional thing that we're dealing with here.
Well, many indigenous peoples and tribes have this philosophy and theory that everything in the universe is interconnected. Everything. And so for John and I, in the investigations that he and I did over the years, we come to an agreement that the commonality among all of these things that people refer to as paranormal were interconnected by other planes of existence or dimension. Excuse me. And what led to that, really, for me, there was a haunting case that I investigated where there were a phenomenon known as a port, APPORT. And again, that comes from the time of the spiritualist movement and around the same time that the talking boards were developed and created. But with an apport, you have a material object that can come into our physical world, or sometimes it disappears from our physical world. In this case, it was a haunting case in the Winter Rock area, and the one of the primary phenomenon was we would have coins that would materialize out of thin air and fall in the floor, or sometimes they would come flying across the room. Sometimes they would hit us. And in 2 days, there were 66 coins that materialized. And I know I witnessed at least 10 occurrences where I observed coins falling out of thin air, out of nothingness.
Wow.
And so it got me to thinking about this phenomenon, and it made me realize that the coins had to be coming from somewhere. So from point A, where it originated from, to point B, falling in the floor, there has to be a start and an end to that. And the idea that the coins had to be materializing from somewhere else, some other plane of existence or some other space, coming to our physical world and materializing. And that case was in 2009, and I developed an attachment in that investigation. When we were investigating it, coins began happening at my home, and to this day, I can still have coins materialize out of thin air and fall on the floor wherever I'm at. I mean, it's occurred when I've traveled to Canada and to Scotland and other places and throughout the U.S. And it's a really interesting phenomenon. I don't have to be thinking about anything paranormal, or for the most part, it just happens out of the blue. Um, and last month I had the most coin support within a short period of time, which was 3 weeks. I had 4 dimes that materialized and fell out of the air in my bedroom in 3 weeks. So with that, I did begin using FLIR, forward-looking infrared and cameras and digital audio recording around that. I did analyze one of the 4 audio that I recorded. It didn't appear that there was any response or anything related to that from an audio standpoint, but there's 3 other recordings I have yet to analyze. I did notice with one of the infrared camera recordings that there was some type of light anomaly or phenomenon that did occur. So I'm kind of excited to look at more of the video footage to see if there's other orbs and things of that nature that occur during that time when these coins happen. So pretty interesting stuff, I've been told by medicine men and shaman it's not something that I have to worry about, which I've never had any negative feeling in association with that phenomenon. There's never been, like I said, it happens even in my own bedroom, and I sleep like a baby. There's nothing there but I'm always doing things to cleanse this space inside my home, on my person, and around my home. And I do take the time to do those kind of things. But earlier, what I was saying is what John recommends for people regarding the protections and all of that is to go back and look in a person's own culture and their own history and ancestry and see what it is they were doing to be able to protect themselves. Every culture has some things, you can look at, and look at that first. That's a good starting point to take a look into.
Yeah, and I've noticed like what you said about the phenomenon being able to affect electronics. I know I've witnessed it happening out in the Uinta Basin.
Definitely.
And strangely enough, another spot where it happens quite a bit is the debris field and crash site about 2 hours north of Roswell, where the 1947 incident happened. The same type of phenomenon occurs out there.
Right.
You'll be working with your equipment and it'll just die out of nowhere. We've had cars just die. When we were recording in the Uinta Basin, you could see things with your naked eye that cameras would not pick up.
So it can definitely affect various types of batteries. You'll have fully charged batteries for cameras and other equipment, and you get on scene and, well, like with the coins manifesting, my thought is that, one, it's a spirit that is causing that particular phenomena. And in order to make the coins manifest or move from point A to point B, it takes energy to do that. And so these spirits and entities are tapping into the energy or batteries and things like that that's readily available, and pulling from that to be able to cause these things to happen, and or for spirit to be able to manifest and appear as an apparition and to voice, to say things and all of that. It takes energy to do that, and a lot of times spirit is tapping into those local things that you have around your home and to do what it does. Yeah.
Better hope they're not near your home, Bill. You got enough lights there to light up all of New York City.
Yeah.
I don't think I have to worry too much about that issue here. But we got a few minutes left. Stanley, if there's one UFO case that you were involved with, can you describe what your personal experience was during that event?
Well, personally, John and I witnessed a object that was being followed by two F-16 fighters. This was at nighttime, and we observed an object that appeared 4 or 5 times larger than what you see with a satellite image at nighttime, traversing the sky. This object was making a zigzag pattern as it came across from the west toward the east. And as it got about the 12 o'clock position, you could see the two F-16 fighters following in behind it with their afterburners on. And in a blink of an eye, it accelerated from the 12 noon position to the edge of the horizon in less than a second and a half. The amount of power and that this thing generated was mind-bending. It was otherworldly, and I've never seen anything else that could move.
So it wasn't a drone, right, Stan? It wasn't a drone made by us.
Hell no. No, shit, no. There's, this thing, I've heard of the TR-3B, which is a craft that supposedly man has engineered, and it's nuclear powered and capable of insane speeds. This particular object that John and I seen kept that zigzag pattern, sharp zigzag pattern, right angle turns, for the entire time that it traveled, and even at that blinding speed. We estimated it would have to be up and over like 10,000 miles an hour for this thing to go from where it was at, from point A to point B. And definitely not a drone, definitely not any other type of conventional craft that we're aware of. So,
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
that was one of the cases. John and I did an investigation on an elderly man who had witnessed an object that appeared near his home at night, and 25-foot diameter object that encircled his home. It was bright like the sun. It was giving off beams of light, and it ended up hovering nearby. And there was 4 entities or 4 beings that came from that craft in and around his home, and he witnessed it. And it was, this guy's an elderly Navajo man in his mid-80s, and he described a classic gray 3.5-foot tall extraterrestrial with the big head and the large black eyes, or goggles, or whatever it is, and that was a really compelling case. The elderly man was interviewed 4 times within about 4-year period. His story never changed. He was told that he could make money by allowing production companies to work with him on his story to make television stuff, but he wasn't interested in that. But he was very sincere about what he experienced, and again, his story never changed over those years. He's gone now. He's since passed away from that time, but this was a respected elderly Navajo man. He spent his career in the railroad industry, so he'd traveled this country and he'd seen things, but he had never in his entire life seen anything like that, or witnessed or experienced anything like that. So we even had interpreters he spoke most of this in Navajo and recounted the event mostly in Navajo. But we had a magistrate court interpreter with that particular case, and we had investigators from Bigelow. We had investigators from MUFON, their STAR team, and yeah, it was a very compelling case.
Wow. It's interesting what you said earlier too, that due to the lack of I guess personnel that are on the reservations, and they, like you said, they have other priorities that they have to look into.
Right.
But you mentioned about a court magistrate. I mean, we're having our hearings. It would be incredible if the Navajos did their own hearings and made it public and brought all these people in to show what's going on in their system and how they would recognize, maybe with more transparency than what we're doing in our own government. You know, that would be amazing to see that.
I think the only challenge is the difference in culture. Natives aren't so much. I mean, there's obviously a lot of there's a lot of distrust with the federal government and what it does by Native peoples, and I think rightly so. You know, given the history of this country, but with Native peoples, a lot of them have these experiences, but they're not necessarily reporting it or reaching out to have, any attention on what it is they experience and stuff. So
it's unfortunate, but
that's a challenge.
It's understandable though under the circumstances. But
Yeah.
Toby, we're almost out of time here, but we know Stan. He's a gentleman and he's genuine and sincere. I mean, what these two gentlemen have done in their careers and exposed this out there for the public to see and to read and to hear about, I think it's so important. But where can people find your book? What's coming up for you? Upcoming events? Let everybody know.
Well, you can pretty much find the book at any major retail outlet. Your Barnes and Nobles. You can find it on Amazon. You can go directly to my publisher, which is HarperCollins and William Morrow, and you can just look up HarperCollins and enter my name or enter the Paranormal Ranger, and that'll bring up the book. And it's not really hard to find. I walked into a Barnes and Noble the other day in Denver, and it was on the shelf there, and so yeah, it's out there. The audiobook, the digital ebook, and there's various formats of it. It's out there.
I recommend everybody go pick it up, give it a read. And if you get a chance to go to one of these book signings and presentations that Stan's doing, go. Just
Absolutely.
Cancel your plans for the night and make sure you go attend that instead.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Toby.
I want to just end this on a little light note. When we were all at Roswell last year, it was Mark D'Antonio, Stan, Marianne, Rob, John, the whole crew was there. So they said, we got a gift for you before you leave Roswell. And they were all in on it. Okay. They decided, and they know how I felt. Mark did, and Marianne, about scorpions. This is what they did to me. They gave me. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh. So great. Like I said, it's just great people also in person. I can't speak enough about meeting him and John and everybody in Roswell last year. So thank you for your
thank you, and thank KGRA has really supported me and John with our effort. We really appreciate
we will continue to support you, and you always have a place here with all of us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm going to blame that on Bill, like I do every week. He was talking the whole time. Sorry, Stan. I can't keep him quiet.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank all your audience. Thank you, everybody that tuned in and who wants to watch this show. I appreciate.
Yep. So be sure to get that book, and be sure to keep an eye out for appearances by Stan and John at different conferences. If Roswell and Contact in the Desert last year were an indicator of anything, get there early because the rooms were absolutely packed to the point people couldn't get in. And I will say this, out of all the presenters, they stayed there after their presentation and individually talked to every single person that went in, had questions, just wanted to meet them, get a photo. So if they're appearing at a conference somewhere near you, I recommend you go check them out. Check out that episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and then pick up the book, The Paranormal Ranger.
Also, watch John on Ancient Aliens.
Oh, that's right.
He's got some more episodes that he's involved in.
Yeah, and then next time we'll have to get both of you on same time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right.
And our partner Michelle Miners. You know, there is a website, the Native Paranormal Crossroads. You can find that on YouTube. That's Jonathan Dover, myself, and Michelle Miners. So you can take a look at that too.
All right. Thank you so much, Stanley, for joining Toby and I today.
It's been
You're
a pleasure.
very welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Bill.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Monday.
Run.